Hello and welcome to On Air with Owen. Me, Owen Richards, founder and CEO of Air Marketing, your go-to for outsourced B2B sales and marketing, and my new co-host, fellow business owner and great friend, Neil Finnie.
Hey everyone, Neil Finnie here, founder of the Generator Work Hub, a co-working space here in the beautiful Exeter, and also Next Gen Careers, a professional development program nurturing the talents of tomorrow.
Each week, we'll be diving into the everyday truths around running your own business. And trust me, we're not sugarcoating anything. It's all about the highs, the lows, and everything between when you run your own business as a founder.
Expect candid conversations and valuable insights between the two of us. Plus, we'll be joined by some special guests along the way.
So, time to sit back and tune in to this week's honest conversation. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On Air with me, Owen Richards, and my amazing co-host, Mr. Neil Finnie. How are you, Neil?
Is that every time? Oh, we were meant to get a song.
Oh, really? An entrance song.
I'm sure no one's that worried about it. It's like, last time they said that they were going to get an entrance song.
Well, I forgot. So.
Yeah, I completely forgot. It was only when you did that, I was like, we did that last time. That I knew I had to kind of semi-prepare. But anyway,
well, surely it's got to be Oasis.
Yeah. Have you not had enough of that by now? Are you an Oasis? I'm not an Oasis fan.
Really? Oh,
no,
I like end recording.
and finish. Yeah, like I think I was more, at that Blur Oasis kind of rivalry. I think I sat more in the Blur camp, far more artistic. I'm more of an artiste than a kind of a rebel rouser. So I don't know. I can take them or leave them. So I won't be in line to get tickets. That's for sure.
Well, that's good. That's good. Maybe that's one more for me. I'm going, mate. I am going.
Are you going to try and get tickets?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of childhood music, I was never a massive, they were a band or an artist that I absolutely adored and that. But in terms of childhood music, songs that stand out from my childhood that are attached to memories and that have lasted through the years and stood the test of time. I mean, they're up there, right? Those songs, Champagne Supernova, Wonderwall. I mean, there's some incredible tunes there. And I'm just like, if they're coming back for one bit, why not, mate? Why not? I
did it for the Stone Roses. When the Stone Roses came back and had their retour, or whatever you want to call it, went to that. Look, if someone had tickets, I'd probably go along, and I can sing along. I can sing along to all the tunes, but I just feel I don't know. I don't get bought into all the kind of razzmatazz of Liam and Noel and all that.
No,
the funniest thing I've ever seen. We've got to have a reference to football. Did you see Noel Gallagher when Man City was it the Poznan? Was it they call it when they get their arms together and then they turn around and they jump up and down when they score?
Oh,
have you not seen that? Man City do it, but Noel Gallagher refuses to do it. And there's this great picture, you should look for it, of Noel Gallagher not turning around. Everyone else in the Man City ends around, and he's just standing there. He goes, Noel Gallagher doesn't turn around, and that's the best thing I can see him do. But yeah, anyway,
love it. But you've had some time off. How was your holiday?
I've had a month off. Yeah. So although I came back and did a couple of these with you, just because that I don't consider these work. Taken August off, which has been lovely. So what we on? It's the 29th of August today. It's Lizzie's birthday tomorrow, and that's Friday. Then we've got the weekend, and I'm back to normal on Monday.
What a shock to the system that's going to be.
Yeah, I always get we do this most years, take August off, because a lot of the stuff we do is academic years. So it's September through till July. So we always get a nice break, and it always feels exciting coming back in September because it's the new start of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of when we kick off a lot of the new projects, the new partnerships. And this is going to be slightly different because obviously Next Gen and Joe and the team, and I'll dip in and out of that, but that will do what we do, working with the universities and the projects out there. The generator, it ticks over, but I'm going to be working more on the new product, which is Career Habit Pro, which is about helping people build career habits, rather than be reactive in your career, look for jobs when you graduate or you lose your job, trying to build it more into your everyday diary, your everyday. That's, I can't even think of the word. You have to cut that out for me. Routine. That's it. God,
There you go.
yes, my head's
You've
not
been out of work
working.
too long.
I have been out of work for so long. So yeah, into your everyday routine. But it's quite nerve-wracking. Like, we've built it for the last year, and I think we'd planned to take it to markets about 6 months ago, and we have in a very loose form, but we're really ramping it up in the autumn, in the fall, and it's pretty nerve-wracking.
So let's talk about that, because I think it's a really interesting. If I think about the things I enjoy in founding a business, that early stage is both the hardest in many ways, but also the most exciting and the bit I love, and getting it off the ground for the first time, winning the first proper sale, getting the first campaigns up and running, all that kind of stuff, just working it out. There's something quite nice about that phase, despite it being probably the least glamorous phase of it and the hardest work. So for the sake of the audience, let me ask some questions about it. So what is Career Habit Pro? So what is it? A product? I'm buying a product? Is it a...
I think we have a product which is a journal, but I don't think that's our kind of hero product. It'll be like an upsell, and that's about trying to support people in one section of careers, about understanding yourself and what you want for your careers. The main component is service around supporting you in building those positive career habits. And again, this is not the scary thing about it, is I don't think we have fully identified what that product is, what that service is, because a lot of the stuff you can get out there, you can get for free. But I think what people mainly fail to do in their careers is take action, and actually holding yourself accountable, whether that's with a career coach or with some sort of career group, or saying, that's what's going to hold you accountable. So we've got different ideas in what that looks like. And I think, it's everything from a simple 2-hour workshop that you can join that will allow you to at least take those first steps, to a year-long coaching program, which will again help you really build strong career habits to allow you to then, take ownership of your future career. So I think whilst we've got some ideas, I think what we're trying to do is sell the bigger picture of actually changing your mindset when it comes to what a career is and how to approach it. Because we speak to people all the time and ask them, how often do you think about your career? And it's minimal. And people don't think about it. It's like, well, I've got a job. It's like, well, that's great. But look at the amount of redundancies companies are making. It's like, you ain't secure anymore. So you need to be thinking about it. It's that kind of rainy day thing of always imagine next week or next month you will be made redundant. And I think I saw an article, again, it was from the founder of LinkedIn, saying that by 2030, I think it was 2032, the 9-to-5 will no longer exist. And that's the founder of LinkedIn. So obviously, and I'm sure they're collecting data of jobs and everything else, because it's all going to go to gig economy, and we're all basically become freelancers and work multiple jobs and do multiple things. And people aren't aware of these big changes. So I think what we're trying to sell is this awareness and this ability to take control of it. And maybe, we'll just kind of be a content creator and go that way. Maybe I'll launch a podcast.
There you go. So who are you selling to? So who needs Career Habit Pro?
Yeah, I hate saying this. It's a lot. I always tell people not to do this. Oh, it's for everyone. I think initially in the early stages, we are going to focus on mums, the early stage mums, or those that are on maternity leave, because we see them. I guess that demographic having a lot of impact in their employment. They're maybe been in a career for 10, 15 years. They then go on maternity leave. It's really difficult as a mum. I know there's a lot out there that do it as well, but not on the same kind of volume. And it gives them maybe a a period of time over 12 months to rethink maybe what they want to do in their career, or how they can ensure they're maintaining their career path when they go back to work. And again, around career habits, and one of the reasons we came up with Career Habit Pro was mums don't have time in large chunks to think about the what next. So the idea was trying to find 10 minutes, a few times a week to focus on this. And mums is one, that kind of maternity leave, mums is one. Also those people that are thinking about career change, but finding them is really difficult. How do you identify those people that are thinking about a career change? So what we're also looking at are those people that have been recently made redundant or are working for organizations where redundancies are on the card. So, big companies like John Lewis, I think they announced, a large number of redundancies in the coming years. So keeping an eye on those organizations and reaching out to those individuals and saying, hey, look, there's a good chance you can get made redundant, or, you can take volunteer redundancy. Is it now time to start creating those career habits over the next 12 months? So if or when you are made redundant, you've already kind of created those good habits that are going to allow you to take control of your career. So I think those two groups in terms of the B2C route is what we're looking at. But we're also looking at universities, and we're working with a few universities in the next academic year, mainly for postgrad programs, PhD programs, master's programs. We're working with the MBA in Exeter this year in building in Career Habit Pro into what they do. So again, looking at universities, but more the B2B avenue for that.
And so I'm guessing one of your challenges now is how do we grow an audience? How do we increase volume of conversations with people? Because you're going to need to, your offering is going to evolve over time, and the only way it evolves is by getting people in it, trying it, testing it, seeing what works, what they like, what they don't like, having sales conversations, potentially getting told no because, and then you learn, well, actually people don't like that, they do like this. So we evolve accordingly. So you've got to think about where those audiences are, how they like to be spoken to, both in terms of tone of voice and messaging, but also just in terms of like the creative and the like what's important to them. So is that stuff you've mapped out, you've started to think about, or are you embarking on that across the next month or so?
Well, I think we've had like the mums, which we're really interested in, but the problem we have with the mums is, I think as a male, in terms of, yes, I'm a dad, but I definitely don't have the same experience as a woman on maternity leave that's given up the career. That it always feels a bit unauthentic or disingenuous to say, hey, we've got the solution for you. I might be wrong there. Maybe, I can access that market, but it's myself, it's Andreu, who's also a dad, and Alba, who is female, but not a mum, and maybe, again, removed from that demographic. So we're speaking to an individual that is a mum and we're kind of coming back from maternity leave to see if we can get her on board to create some of that messaging and also be the voice for that messaging, because it becomes more authentic in relation to understanding their pain points and also tweaking the model for them. Because again, I can say in my mansplaining, oh, this is what happens when a woman goes on maternity leave, but I've seen my wife go through it, and I've seen other friends go through it. But, I think
never
it's better.
Yeah.
And
I mean, is that where?
Sorry, it's just saying the university stuff's fine. We've got that access to market. We know who we need to reach there. It needs to be stuff we're very used to. It's the B2C stuff to build that audience that we're kind of like, what do we do?
Well, that's when it stops being sales and it starts being marketing, right? And this is where ultimately the outcome you want is selling something and not acknowledge, but consumer stuff is a marketing campaign drive inbound strategy rather than an outbound human conversation one. So you've got to have a digital voice, you've got to have a brand, you've got to be credible when they go look at you as a brand. And as a startup, that's really difficult, because I always say with anything, for somebody to buy from you, they've got to trust you more than they trust themselves, right? So they got to trust that I bought a new running watch last night, and I had to trust the people who produce the watch, that they know more about watches than I do, right? So I do, because the brand is a very well-known brand for running watches, and therefore it's earned that. But if I'd never heard of it before, which is really the case when you're start. How on earth do I, in that short period of time where I've got their attention, to create such a scenario that they trust me to give me their money more than they trust their instincts on something, because we're now the voice of authority. And that happens over time. That's why brand is so important, that you don't, you go, I want a burger, I go to Burger King, right? Because you know the brand, rather than I go to this shop I've never heard of, because you don't know if it's going to be good or not. And probably a bad example because I don't eat Burger King, but you get the point there, that it's the power of the brand, and you can't build that overnight. So it then becomes, how do I translate my learnings from B2B sales into consumer marketing, consumer brand, consumer demand gen? And that's a big challenge. I'm guessing the first thing is, well, let's identify, and this is the stuff that I would do with clients now, whether it's B2B or B2C, to be fair. Let's identify who are our ideal client profiles, because you've got more than one. Secondly, where do they hang out? So where do they like to consume information? Where do they like to buy? Where do they like to learn? And then thirdly, what do they respond to? Like, do they respond to video? Do they respond to voice? Do they respond to influencer marketing? So I'm thinking of somebody I know in your space, the Unbumsy Mum, right? There's a primary authority, credible voice into that market that is relevant, credible, trusted, has an audience already. It's like, well, okay, if she's saying this is really useful, that's so much more powerful than Neil Finnie, Owen Richards, a dad they never heard of, saying it. And that's where actually you just maybe need to reframe the thinking about, where do they hang out, and what's the tone of voice and the message they need to see in order to do something.
Yeah, and I think, definitely Sarah, maybe she's watching, might get back to it. I might be chatting to her about the, seeing if we can at least pass something through to a community to see if it's something that resonates with them. And I think it's that kind of catch-22 for us, because we're very comfortable in that B2B university space and reaching out and building things in that way. But we also, like, I think me personally also want to go for that older market, people that are in their mid-40s that are more like me. I want to get out of that. But the problem is because we know the space of the universities and we can focus on that, all of our time and effort goes into that, because it's the easy thing to do.
Shorter cycle to revenue.
Much easier. I know I can go onto LinkedIn, identify the relevant, lecturers or individuals to speak to. We've got a big track record. We've got, 12, 15 years working in that space. But we want to push ourselves out of that as well. And everything you're talking about really resonates. And I think it's also that thing of choosing a couple of those profiles, and we saw mums being a big one. But, the problem with that is we don't have anyone in our direct team that can satisfy that demographic in terms of the tone of voice and the content, which means an extra resource and paying for someone else to come in and to create that. Or, do we then look, well, actually, let's focus on people like me. Let's find 48-year-old men that are maybe struggling with.
You're not 40. I'll stop it. You're not 48.
Thanks, Owen. Very kind. Very kind.
Sorry, I have to say that. Just for the audience, he makes me do that.
Yeah, but you know.
That was scripted.
Thanks, Owen. Good man. It is like, but how do I find me's? And I find that I find difficult. It's like, well, how do I find the me's? And you could argue, you can go on LinkedIn, or we can just cold message all those people in there and go that way. But I want it to be a bit more authentic than that, and find those groups. And but do we look at influencers? Do we look at the social side of things? Which platforms do we use? Do we jump onto LinkedIn? Do we use Instagram? Do we go to Facebook? The other issue that we have is, as a team, none of us really like social. We're not on it.
That's the problem with the consumer program, isn't it?
It's huge, because again, what it means is outsourcing a lot of that to which is fine. There's a budget to do that, and I think that outsourcing becomes far easier now with the use of AI and other technology. But it is going to get quite saturated in the amount of content that we're seeing. So yes, it's difficult. This is what I'm concerned about. It's like so much stuff in so many places that we can go. It's like, what's the best next step? What's that first step we should be taking?
Can I ask you a question? And we're having a natural conversation, but I don't know the answers to these questions. We've not spoken about this before, but like, you're not a business that's had investment, right? So you've got a concept, you're taking it to market. It's not like you've gone out and gone pre-seed funding, 100 grand, couple hundred grand, right? You're self-funding this. It's bootstrapped. We've got to go, but you also, and I'm reading between the lines of what you said, so clarify for me or correct me if I'm wrong, but you're also prepared to put a little bit of cash behind it to get it going, because you acknowledge that you can't just do it all organically. You've got to invest something to get a return, right? Is that fair? Okay, fine. So what we're looking at is not so much where can we spend money, where can we grow, it's where do we get the fastest return and the best return for our pound. Because I think one of the things that I hear in what you're saying is we could do this, we could do that, we could do that, we could do that, we do that. And then you kind of came to a realization yourself of, actually, we can, but actually we've got to focus on one. And I think that's probably the best bit of advice I can give off of what you said is, yeah, you can absolutely do these things, but you phase it, right? You say, well, what is the point? What are we going to double down on first? What is the thing that we're going to absolutely, laser focus in on, make sure that our messaging, when we're talking about this, it's for those people. It's not, it could be for this person, that person, or that person, because that just dilutes the value of the message. It's for, if we're going to go, parents of young children who have taken time out of work, right? That is who it's for. Or if you want to go even further, it's for mums, right? But all of the marketing, all of the branding, all of the messaging is then focused on that. It is branded in a way that your research tells you that a 25 to 40-year-old mum who is on maternity leave would respond to, right? And they're not the same, let's just say that out loud, regardless of demographic, but you increase your percentage chances of it being relevant to them by doing research, right? So if you go out and you speak to 100 mums on maternity leave and you say, what brand colours do you trust the most? All of a sudden that informs what brand colours, and if they're all the same, it doesn't matter. But if one comes out at 80% of the time they trust that brand, and another one's 20% of the time they trust that kind of brand, well, there's your answer, right? Don't do the one that's 20%. Mm-hmm. And it's stuff like that tone of voice. Do they trust things that use humor, that are a bit more fun, that are a bit more quirky, or do they trust things that are a little bit more sage, a little bit more straight line, a little bit more reserved? And it's stuff like that I don't know, you don't know, because we're not in that demographic. But if you look at the brands that do well in those towards those demographics, are there things that you can learn from what they're doing that make you realize, geez, they've got a common theme, or either what they are doing or what they're not doing. And I think you've got to pick an audience, drive all your messaging towards that, and then you're not trying to advertise across 6 different channels, because, well, these people like hanging out on Facebook, and these on Instagram, and these are really good on email, and these hang out at events. But you say, you know what, this demographic, that's how they like to be spoken to. That's the channel that works. And if I'm going to put, let's make it up, £2,000 a month into this, I put it into one thing, and I get a really good, if not a return on investment, then speed of learning, because I'm spending at a decent volume, versus got 10 channels on £200 a month each, which just doesn't get you anywhere near even a learning. And the faster you can learn, the better.
Yeah. See, it's so nice talking to something. And again, I would advise anyone in any business, find someone you can chat to about this stuff, because although you might know it, again, getting someone sending it back to you makes a lot of difference. Because I think we had an issue as well, because everything we've built out, I've just had a quick look at the homepage. You look at it, there's no pictures of any men on it. It's all women, which was a chosen reason, because at the time we're like, we are going after that female demographic. But I think also it depends what you want from the business, because now I'm thinking about it. I'm actually like, who should be the first demographic we go after? I think if I was going to scale something, or I was going to grow something, you think, well, we're going to blow this up. Maybe the female thing is the right avenue, because it's probably going to be the biggest market. Because when you look at coaching and you look at journaling, you look at self-reviewing and that kind of stuff, I think it's maybe more female centric. Again, I don't know, this is just my gut feeling. But actually what we're trying to do with this business is to not grow it to a huge extent. We want it to be quite lifestyle. I'm, as I said, getting to an older stage where I'm actually wanting to do something that I really enjoy and I feel passionate about. And maybe I have to build the demographic closer to me and the people that I understand, which again is going back to that 40-something male in a certain time in their life. But that,
But do they have a need for that? Do they have a need for that?
I think they do. Yeah, I think, well, like I think, as said, a lot of these people that are in their mid to late 40s, the big issues they're going to see is the speed at which technology is taking over a lot of their roles and a lot of their jobs.
Yeah.
And I think the people of my age tend to be quite happy and quite feel safe, which means they don't have that eagerness or willingness to develop an understanding of what's going on, which means those people are more likely to get left behind when the world changes as it is doing. And they're the ones that are going to need to take control of it more, because they've probably got mortgages, families, and other responsibilities that they need to think about. And I think you also get, obviously, to a certain age where you're like, actually, what do I want from life? Because you're getting nearer to the checking out button. I'm hopefully far from that, but you still think about it more. And you want to make sure that you're making the right decisions in your career that match your lifestyle. More time with family. Again, I said I've had a month off. That was great because the kids are getting to a certain age. So I believe there is a need for men of my age to think about, taking more control of their careers at this moment before it's too late. And I think realistically, when I think about it now, talking about it out loud, I think they live more on LinkedIn than they would on Instagram or Facebook or other areas, because these are professionals. They're pretty accessible. I know the kind of titles that they would have. And it's also the platform I use the most.
So you understand it.
I understand.
So let's take a step back for a second. Just a thought. So in this conversation, we didn't plan this, by the way. This has gone where it's gone, and that's all good. We've identified that you don't actually know where you're going to go, what you're going to do, right? And I think this is the biggest point of the start, is that we see so many people founding a business who in their head have got this squirreled away idea that probably makes loads of sense because it's not been tested. It's not been stress tested. It's not been challenged because they haven't got people around them to challenge them or ask them the questions, or just be curious to the point where you go, oh, I haven't thought about that. In our 26 minutes of recording this, you've changed what your ICP, your best bet of ICP is going to be based on that. So you spend a day talking about this stuff with Alba and Andrea, and one or two other people who aren't involved now. Then all of a sudden you get asked questions that you wouldn't ask yourself, and you come up with more and more clarity. And I think people miss this step. It's the planning step. Yes, it's boring because you're not having an impact, right? You're not returning a number. You're not starting a campaign. You're not selling anything. But my God, is it important? It is so important, because at the moment, if we hadn't had this conversation, you'd be off going to Target, and all the pictures on your website are based on females of a certain age and that sort of stuff. And now you're going, hang on a second, should it be something else? And maybe it shouldn't be that. I don't know. You probably need to have the same challenging conversations around that bit, because in my head, as an untrained eye, I'm going, are there, as a percentage of population of men of 48 years old, how many are thinking about reinvesting in their career or being forced to think about that, versus as a percentage of the population of people between 25 and 40 who are female, how many are having kids? I don't know the answer to that, but it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, to see how big your addressable market is.
I think there's two things here as well, because again, it's what you want from the business, because maybe in terms of, if you're looking at growing a business and you're looking at accessing that bigger demographic, I would say the female maternity leave in terms of accessing and finding probably the right way to go. But again, I think from the business perspective, it's also driven by what we know at the moment in terms of who we are. And, it's coming from a sense of maybe slightly more male dominance. It's not, Albert has that voice as well, but again, she's not in that mum sphere that we're going after. And we are in the fortunate position that we can take our time over it. All we need is one demographic now. That's not to say in 6 months' time, once we've really drilled down into that demographic and we've understood it and we've found something that works, that we wouldn't explore them going back to that feeling. But we've got traction with one that we know that works, that we can utilize our own experiences with. Bringing on the mum kind of influencer or content or voice is an extra cost to the business that we don't necessarily need at the moment, because yes, we can fund privately for other businesses for it. We have some traction in terms of the B2B that's going to bring in some income for it. But maybe it's best to do 6 months just of what we know, focus on that market, build that community, and then plug in different communities as we go, as we get traction and we make more sales.
You build budget based on profitability of that stuff that you're doing in phase one, that you say, right, we're going to take a percentage of that and we invest that in phase two, knowing that we're going to test 2 or 3 things and that probably 1 or 2 of them will fail and 1 or 2 of them will work. And then we double down, we reduce the budget on the ones that fail and we put it into the ones that work. And then we go into the next phase and so on and so forth. And even that, having a plan, right? How many times do I talk to people who are particularly in startup world, don't even have a plan. They're just going pillar to post, change. It's emotion led. It's that didn't work, so we'll go over here. There's no data underpinning it. There's no research. There's no thought. There's no plan. And as a result, they don't actually know if something's working or not, because you got a leading metric and a lagging metric, right? We're going to go after mums. The leading metrics are saying it's working really well because people are engaging with us. But the lagging metric, which is revenue, doesn't come 3 months later for whatever reason. Or the other way around, the leading metric, it's really hard to get in a conversation. But actually, what we don't know is that if you get in a conversation, they convert really well. Until you've got that full picture, it's really hard to actually measure or judge the success of something. And that's where it's like, well, actually, what's the process? What's the plan? What are we gonna accept as a minimum standard? If we're going to go and run Instagram ads, let's say, into males or Instagram, probably more so the female demographic that you've talked about today. Like, if we're going to do that, what's our budget and what are we prepared to accept over what time before we need to switch that off because it's not working? And if it's not working, how do we diagnose why? Is it that we've advertised to the wrong people, the wrong personas, and we need to change the audience? Is it that our messaging is poor? Is it that our brand is not credible, is not something they want to look at? Or have we just got it all wrong? And it's like, well, actually, have you got a process or a plan to diagnose that? Because if your ads are being seen but not being clicked on, it probably isn't the audience. It's probably the ads and the quality of the ads and the copy and the messaging. If your ads are getting clicked on, but then people aren't engaging and buying, then it's the website or it's the brand or whatever. And it's like, even down to just, have you thought that stuff through? It's so important, because without a plan, you're just blind, aren't you? Just running at things based on gut feel, based on emotion, based on what happened yesterday.
This has been a lot of our problem, like, not just for this, but in general. I think one of the things that we know that we can do, look, we can go in and we can sell our products to the universities, to the business. We're good at that. We can do that. But the marketing side, like the sales, I think we're pretty good at. The marketing, like we are poor at it. And it's like, I think we're just about to switch on working with a marketing agency to bring that to us. But I think one of the things, give us some demographics to at least explore. And this is the thing, but I think we've changed tack a little bit, where we're going to go a bit more organic in the beginning, and then we're going to launch the marketing probably later in the fall, when we've got a bit better of an understanding what kind of content hits and everything. Because we're lucky at that time. We don't need to rush into this. The other businesses will support this financially. I guess if you're a startup, what do you do?
You don't have that luxury.
You don't have that financial backing. It's choosing that one and testing as quickly as possible to see, if it's the right audience.
No, what I would say is, there's probably one bit of advice, and I give this bit of advice a lot, and it's not a coincidence that it airs, I guess, like our brand motto, and we talk about it. We talk about be brave, sell more, right? So the idea behind that is that it's really easy to get caught in your product and go, right, we're gonna start to create content around it, talk about the product, talk about how good it is, talk about all the straight line stuff. Actually, the stuff that really explodes, and it's not easy to get right, is when you are brave with your messaging, when you do something that's different to other people, when you stand out, when you're a little bit quirky, or you use humor, or you use controversy, or you use data and information that other people don't have access to. And there's lots of ways to be brave. It doesn't always have to be stupid silly. It can be really well-researched data that's insight that just hasn't been available before, and really cuts through the noise. But it's about, how can we produce content that isn't being seen elsewhere, that just gets people to stop scrolling, that gets people to listen if we're talking to them on the phone, or if we're in an event with them, rather than heard that before, heard that before, seen that before, seen that before, which is what we're doing most of the day. And you can see it, right? You can see brands who do that with, a great example of that is the John Lewis Christmas ad, right? it's different every year. They've done an amazing job of branding their advertising. Right? When you think about that, that's because they spend a shit ton of money on it. They're brave with it, and now they're here. But they did that at the beginning, right? They did that with nothing behind it at the beginning. They just went big on it, and it's that kind of bravery that counts. And the bravery doesn't have to cost money. It can be just, we're going to do something that's completely different to what others are doing, just to stand out. And I think that's the bit for me, is like, if you're going to do organic content, if you're going to try to genuinely build a brand, you've got to find things or something or things that's different, that other people aren't doing, and that helps you to stand out. Otherwise, it's just going to be boring. It's just going to tick along.
Yeah, like we had that with corkscrews, like screw internships. We tried to go a bit edgy. The US market, especially the university market, it works sometimes. All the time, I must admit, somewhere like where it's not very appropriate for our students, and not the kind of language
they were talking to you about it.
We spoke about. But yeah, it's an interesting one. You know, it's still finding that nugget. You know, trying to come up with something that hasn't been done, like around career habits or whatever. Okay, you know, what can we do there? How can we break a mold? How can we change something different? How can we do something different? I think, you know, we use data a lot in that to try and make people aware of what's coming, but hopefully without coming clickbaity, because again, maybe we'll chat about this at another time.
Yeah,
but it's like there's a formula out there in terms of how you can create that clickbait, which I'm not going to go that route, you know, in terms of that kind of clickbait where it's coming across and people aren't getting the value that necessarily they want. But it's finding that uniqueness. And again, but that's going to be the interesting marketing stuff. And hopefully that will come once we think of our demographic and we can hit them up with it. It's going to be an interesting journey. Obviously, one that we're updated with. But come next Monday, I'll be having a chat with Anjo and Alba and seeing what their thoughts are. And you'll be seeing some changes on the website. More mail.
Can't wait. Well, look, bringing an external agency will really help. An external voice that asks different questions, and you know, they should be in the briefing process asking you why you're doing certain things and what you're trying to achieve with it, and just digging in a little bit. And I just think that will bring value in itself, because it'll get you thinking about it. So
yeah, they've been good. They've been good, but I think, you know, our budget is good. It's not amazing. There's enough there to definitely go and test stuff. But you know, I think it's us in our head also being thinking what we can actually deliver.
Yeah.
Because again, if we go down that female audience, those people that can actually deliver some of the services, we're going to have to outsource. We're going to have to bring in, which in early stage can be difficult, because that's an extra expense.
Yeah, we've got the volume. Yeah, agreed. Well, look, the downside of all this is you've got a massive challenge ahead of you, right? A massive challenge, and that's hard. The upside is I'm a bit jealous, because I bloody love that startup phase when you're trying to work it all out. And you know, I always use that analogy of turning the Titanic round. It's like, you know, if you needed to turn it around, it'd probably take a couple of hours to slow it down, move it bit by bit round. Whereas you're still spinning on a dial, you can just go, right? You can go, that didn't work. Let's try something else. Yeah, and that's so exciting, because you get to play with it, and you get to be creative, and you get to go and experiment in a way that you can only do in those early stages of a business, with such agility. So I'm jealous. It's my favorite bit, mate. My favorite bit.
No, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting getting back in that kind of startup phase again, which is going to be good.
Well, let's check in a couple of weeks. You can give us an update on how things are going, and I expect full progress, and you'll have all your conversion rates, and you'll have probably a good couple of $100,000 of revenue, and we'll be off and running.
At least, Owen.
Love it. All right, mate. We'll catch you soon. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. Bye.